forum is sponsored by the Columbus Food Truck Festival, which is owned by Mike Galicchio, who owns Park Street Cantina. He has generously donated several gift certificates for the restaurant, and we will draw a winner now. Remember, you gave your business cards when you came in. We'll draw a winner now, and we'll do it again at the end of the forum. And Thea, we'll have you draw. All right. Oh, my glasses. Aaron Pitcock from Chase.
Hey.
One of our bankers.
So, again, thanks to the Columbus Food Truck Festival for their support today. And don't leave early, because there's another drawing at the end. A biography of each speaker is on your flyer, on your forum flyer, so I'll just give you some brief introductions. Our first speaker is the Executive Director of Dine Originals Columbus. Please welcome Katharine Moore. Also joining us on the table is the co-owner and founder of Columbus Food Adventures. Please welcome Bethia Woolf. And our next speaker is the editor of Columbus Crave. You've seen the magazines out in the lobby. And the dining editor of Columbus Monthly, Shelley Mann. And serving as today's moderator is our own CMC chair and chief Columbus foodie. He's also a partner at Porter Wright, and he's a local food critic, Rich Terapak.
Thank you, Michael. And as a food critic for WOSU, I want to make sure you make your pledge of $60, $80, or $120 before the end of the week. Thank you, Mike. And we're really privileged to have a lot of knowledge sitting at this table today, and we want to get to it, and there'll be a lot of questions. You know, we don't publicize it enough, although the four of us think we do, the quality of food we have in town. And the number of unique and wonderful restaurants, of chef-owned restaurants, of great food trucks. I, along with a couple of my buddies, were pretty offended when Anthony Bourdain said Columbus had nothing but Applebee's and strip centers. Actually, we dragged Michael Ruhlman down here and changed his mind. But so we have to get past that by telling you about some of the things that we have going for us. One of the topics for today was about food centers. We've had food centers in Grandview, perhaps started by the Spaggios, the gourmet market originally. Certainly the short north is running rampant with new restaurants. Bethel Road seems to have every ethnic opportunity in the world, and that's terrific. Certainly German Village has been around for a long time. What we were talking about in some of the promotions was the rebirth of downtown restaurants. We seem to be getting some urban pioneers who are willing to risk some things, and hopefully they're doing well. I'll just ask each of you to comment on that. Shelley, you get to see it all the time. Did you?
I do. It's very exciting to me, actually. It's something that I've been hoping would happen since I moved back to Columbus several years ago. And I think, something that when you look back on old pictures of downtown and look back at our history, originally downtown was where you went out to eat, and there were a lot of very nice restaurants downtown. And then, it kind of moved out to the suburbs and different neighborhoods and things like that. So, but it's kind of what separated us from other cities is our downtown after 5 o'clock when everyone goes home had been, desolate. Everyone leaves and no one goes out to eat. So it's been really exciting to watch it come back. I think first we saw Gay Street, which is probably the most vibrant area of downtown now, with Tip Top and Duomici coming, bringing a lot of people back downtown after work. And so now it's exciting to see the movement spread to other areas. So the Columbus Commons has brought a lot of people downtown, and now there are a couple options. Manifesto and De Novo are owned by the same woman, Yvonne, who has done a lot to bring people downtown, and I think people are really grateful for that. They go out to the theater, Ohio Theater, Southern Theater, see a show, and they just want to get a meal before or after. And so there are a lot of great options, and a lot more people out and about, which makes our city look more like a big city. It feels a lot more vibrant than it has.
Yeah, we were down at Manifesto on Saturday night, I believe, and when the Ohio, when the symphony ended, and when Avenue Q were over, the place was just packed.
Yeah.
And it was really exciting. I wanted to take movies or something. It was coming back. Katharine, you certainly know a lot of these because a lot of them are members of Dine Originals.
A lot of them are members. I think our guys are starting to feel like their investment as urban pioneers when there was not a lot happening, which is Tim Lesner at the Tip Top and Dewey Michi, the Elevator Brewing Company.
Oh, yeah.
These guys have been there for a long time, and things are starting to shift, and there are enough apartments and condos that, and just more vibrancy, absolutely. What they say to me is that it's so hard to staff and to keep a kitchen operating at maximum when it's all about what's at the Ohio Theater and who's at the convention center. And if those aren't in play, if we have ninth grade cheerleader competition at the convention center, then that doesn't drive traffic. When you have the Arnold in town, they're smashed.
Yeah.
So there's some
You
inconsistency.
can't find any protein, that's right.
Exactly. But I think they're thrilled with moving into a new era. It's clearly changed in the last 18 months or so.
And clearly the additional housing and residence and apartments and condos have got to help that.
Yeah.
These people want to eat somewhere.
Absolutely.
And now they can even get carry out at Hills. Bethia, you get to travel around.
Yeah, Shelley was talking about Gay Street, and I just wanted to give a little mention to the Moonlight Market, which I think is a great initiative for getting more people downtown in the evening. I think the next one is May 11th. It's the second Saturday of each month. It's a great little kind of market on Gay Street to give people something to do, walk around and see. And I also wanted to give a mention to some of the increasing diversity of the restaurants downtown. It's not just sandwich bars and American food, which I think is great. El Camino, which opened up on 4th, doing Mexican kind of taco, truck style food. Hey Paul, also on 4th, doing the Korean, some Korean dishes. And then, downtown, downtown really is the center of the Central American food in Columbus, with Peruvian and Venezuelan and Cuban restaurants. Downtown is the place to go for those kind of restaurants. So it's nice to see that. And Si Senor is doing really authentic Peruvian dishes at the weekend, which is great.
Still located in the Atlas building, right? Is that what
No, they're moving.
Ah.
I think they're opening hopefully in the next week or so in Lynn Alley.
Okay, great.
So.
Yeah, it's good quality stuff. No, it's exciting. It's exciting for those of us who work downtown and have an opportunity to get some good lunches. But it was fun coming down and having having some vibrancy evident in the downtown area last week. Food guilds, and what I mean by that are the folks like Dine Originals. 55 members? How many members do we have?
49.
49 members of Dine Originals. Dine Originals is an organization of locally owned, often chef-owned restaurants. It's been going on for how long, Kath?
10 years.
10 years, wow. They've banded together and kind of branded together to bring us a lot of good things and a lot of good activity in a forum like Dine Originals, which will be, May 9th at Capitol University. We also have, as Bethia can tell us certainly, and Shelley, just an enormous number of food trucks now, which is, we went from 0 to 110 in a couple years. And they seem to be, doing some banding and branding as well. And I think Dine and All gives them a little opportunity for that. Let's talk a little bit about the food truck world and how it's growing and whether they've been able to maintain. Bethia, why don't you start on that?
Yeah, I'm definitely growing. We are seeing new trucks popping up again this year. There doesn't seem to be any slowdown in that. And definitely an increasing diversity with those as well. We now have Japanese, Korean, Indonesian food trucks, Vietnamese. So I think for anybody who thinks that food trucks is just kind of burgers and fries and tacos, there's really a lot more variety than that. And in terms of the food trucks working together, I think there's some different angles to that. I know that the food trucks have been working together in terms of addressing some of the issues with the city, trying to work on kind of being proactive with the city about zoning and code related things. Also kind of working to kind of forming pods, which is, you know, where you have a cluster of food trucks together, either as a regular thing or kind of monthly events like Hal and Al's have food trucks the last week, Sunday of every month down there. And then other organizations, Columbus Commons, having the trucks weekly during the summer. The OSU hospitals now have a program at their medical centers where the trucks rotate around at lunchtime. So there definitely is quite a lot more coordination, but still a lot of the trucks kind of doing their own thing.
How do we find out where they are on any particular day?
It depends. I mean, some of the trucks have regular locations, like Tokyo Go-Go, they're always based at Brothers Drake. Ray Ray's barbecue truck, they're always at Ace of Cups. So some of them have kind of fixed locations like that. Some of the other ones move around. And then the ways to track them, either a particular truck, you can track them through their Twitter or Facebook page. There are some apps that you can use. There's a street food finder app that I think is going to be the best one, but it's doesn't have
Still
enough people on
developing.
board yet.
Yeah.
We have a Twitter list that we have all the trucks on that people can follow. That's part of Street Eats Columbus. So there's different ways of tracking.
Well, it's terrific, and again, it adds to the certainly the ethnicity element, and broadens the scope of our ethnic restaurants or food availability. And it's terrific that they're doing things like going to the University Hospital area, and we'll give a shout out for somebody to go to Children's Hospital area because they need them down there too. Doctors, nurses, and others don't have a lot of time to eat, and there's not a lot in the neighborhood, and they get tired of the cafeteria.
Yep.
Catherine, do you have any comments on the food trucks?
Well, we've never been, no, it's the guild, I like that word.
Yeah.
We're food guild. No, we celebrate them. I think that working out the kinks in the city is quite a challenge, and other cities have had a much harder time and more tension than we've experienced in Columbus, which is a relief to us. You know, if you're Kent Rigsby and you're putting in what you're putting into your institution, to have somebody pull up on Saturday night in front of your front door is not always a welcome configuration. But I think we've enjoyed more cooperation and targeting underserved, like the medical center, in ways that have given them great business and not stepped on toes.
Right. I think
Yeah.
they are coexisting pretty well.
I think so.
Shell, what's new with in your world with food trucks?
Well, one thing I wanted to comment on in terms of collaboration that I just think is kind of cool and shows, you know, the camaraderie among that crowd, because it is really hard to do a food truck, you know, trying to decide where to park and you know, figuring out the best places to be and what to offer and that kind of thing. But you see a lot of food trucks sharing products, I guess. So Aju Mama, which is a Korean food truck, will use hot dogs from the Good Frank, which makes their own frankfurters here in Columbus and sells them on a food cart. So you know, it's a way of giving recognition to some of the other people that are doing this and making a go of it, and you know, sort of helping them market themselves and that kind of thing, which I think is cool, and I'd like to see, you know, maybe even happen in restaurants and things like that. But another example is Pursuit truck makes their own bread, and so a lot of, you know, carts don't, or, you know, can't do that, and so they can use something that has been made locally, and then that sort of gives Pursuit a way to make money outside of the truck and that kind of thing. So that's something that I've been seeing in the past year that's kind of neat.
Yeah. Oh, great. That kind of leads naturally into what food trends we're experiencing. You know, we've all been through we all know of various cycles of food trends. You know, some of the Pan-Asian stuff of a couple of years ago. Currently, we seem to be getting a lot more gastropubs. Somebody can give us an official definition of gastropubs. You know, are we just deepening and broadening the ethnicities we already have, or are we what's going on in your mind, in your worlds, as to food trends?
Well, the one that Shelley and I were talking about earlier is ramen. I think ramen is going to be the next big thing in Columbus. Heard.
Not just at the university, but.
No, not. And well, I guess that's a good thing to clarify. When I say ramen, I'm really not talking about instant ramen, but I'm talking about kind of gourmet ramen. So this is a trend that started in Japan, where it's a hugely cult thing, and then moved across in some of the coastal cities, obviously New York, LA. Ramen is really big, and there's Fresh Street have been doing a ramen pop-up for the last 2 weeks that ends Friday. If you want to try it, you've got 2 days left. But then there are whisperings or plans afoot, it seems, for possibly at least 2 or 3 new ramen bars that we know of popping up later this year.
So these will be actually brick and mortar, not trucks?
Yep.
Great.
One of them is starting off as a cart and debuting later this week, and then it will be transitioning, they hope, to a restaurant in the fall.
Certainly that kind of product lends itself to things like carts. It would be fun. Catherine, anything that you guys are seeing?
I think we look at the new economy, if we want to say that that's where we are, and there's an Audi commercial about saying bye-bye to the old luxury, and it sort of makes sport of a big luxury car in a McMansion. And I think that is the shift away from, when I think of Morton's and some places like that have gone away, I think the style of eating out has changed. And so we think small plates in the gastropub, and people spending the evening, our members are seeing their guests stay longer, that they're not racing off to a performance or another thing, that they're a little bit larger parties and they're staying for longer. So it's more of an evening experience than a meal on their way to somewhere else.
Yeah, certainly the small plates phenomena has taken off, and it's fun. We talk about this on the radio all the time. Science tells us that we only really taste the first 5 bites anyway, so why have 6? You just buy another plate. And it does keep people around longer, and they may actually have another beverage while they're doing that, which is not a bad thing. Shelley, what do you think of trends?
Small plates. I hope everyone saw the last issue of Crave. Our cover story is all about small plates. It's not even, I wouldn't even call it a trend. It's just how new restaurants are serving food now. And it's really, I love it because you get to try a lot more. It's not like you have to decide on one entree and that's the one thing you get to eat out that night. You can have, especially if you go with the big group, you can try 5 to 6 different things or almost everything on the menu, which is, really fun. So gastropubs we can talk about, it's definitely a trend. I think a lot of restaurants that are opening up this past year are calling themselves a gastropub. What it means is a bar that serves nicer food than you would think of in a bar. And generally, also the drinks are nicer. So it's craft beers and it's artisan food and that kind of thing. So we've seen 101 Beer Kitchen in Dublin has been fantastically successful, which is kind of cool. In Dublin, the options had been a lot of chain restaurants, and I think people up there really wanted good food, and so it's been really cool. Every time you go up there, it's good and bad, but there's a 45-minute wait, 2-hour wait sometimes on the weekend because people are eating. They love it, and we've had a couple other gastropubs open downtown.
Is Arch City a
The
gastropub?
Pearl, yeah, Arch City. Arch City, I don't know if they're billing themselves as that, but that's technically, yeah.
You can get a beer and a plate of mussels.
Right, yeah, exactly. Bodega has a gastropub menu. The Pearl is the, highest profile opening of the year, and they're billing themselves as oyster bar and gastropub. So, and it really speaks to what Catherine was talking about, the new economy, and people don't necessarily want to spend $150 on a dinner for 2 people. So this is a way where you're getting great food, but it's priced a little bit lower.
Yep.
I wanted just to add something on trends. I think there's a little bit too much in Columbus of people trying to jump onto trends, and so I know Shelley and I both have kind of the pet peeve of restaurants that open that just have these, like you look at the menu and you're like, oh, every dish on here I've seen somewhere else, or something, they're just copying from other people. And, there are people in Columbus that are doing innovative and different things. And I guess I would just really encourage everybody here, when you see those things, when you see something different, when you see somebody that's taking a risk to do something different, to really support that, because I think we need more innovation in Columbus and not people kind of jumping on what the latest trend is or what somebody else is doing that's successful.
Yeah, you can understand it because investing in restaurants is a real risk. So folks want to get something that maybe is current and saleable, but you're right, to support those other folks who are being more adventuresome and taking bigger risk is a good idea.
If we want Columbus food scene to keep getting recognition and to really grow and compete with cities like Portland, we need to be at the front edge of things, and we need innovation. We don't need to just be kind of copying what's already been successful there.
I love these articles that appear every once in a while. There's one in USA Today, I think, about 4 or 5 months ago. A woman, a writer who was here covering a convention of sorts, and she wrote this article for the 3rd page of USA Today talking about, wow, there's good food in Columbus. They have some really interesting things there, which is terrific to get. But the way to keep that up, as you say, is to support these folks who are taking somewhat larger risks. We've always been considered kind of the testing grounds for restaurants. Not that I know White Castle didn't start here; they didn't move till 1934. But the places like, certainly Wendy's and Rack's, others that have more recently, City Barbecue, Jenny's, Donato's. Are we truly the arbiter of America's common man taste? Any comments on that? We're a test market.
I read an interesting article, I think it was maybe in 614 last year sometime, that was talking about that Columbus still is a test market, but the reasons why have changed. And that now, because Columbus is a very educated city and increasingly diverse, that Columbus
Don't forget we're one of the most intelligent cities in the
has
world.
that Columbus, still is used as a test market, but the reasons why have changed.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have all those folks here, and they add to the economy certainly.
And I think some of those maybe are choosing Columbus as a test market. I don't think Jenny's thought of Columbus as a test market. So
right, she just happened to be here and is doing terrific
flourished
things.
here.
And the same is probably true for Wendy's and White Castle. It's a lot easier to test things in your backyard than it is to do it somewhere else.
To put them down in Portland might be a little more risky. Let's talk about local sourcing a little bit, which I think is a very popular trend, and it has been, a trend that's been around for several years now. Who's doing it? Why are they doing it? Who's doing it best? Shelley?
Wow. Well, sitting right in front of us here at the table I was at is Chris Crater from Harvest Pizzeria. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. But there are a lot of places that are using ingredients that are grown locally. Honestly, it's again like small plates. It's more the norm now for especially new restaurants. But certainly many of the Dine Originals restaurants, G. Michael's does an excellent job of incorporating. Yeah, Black Creek Bistro and Old Town East, they have their own farm where they grow, ingredients. One thing that's kind of cool, if you follow, let's see. Oh, did you say Black Creek? What did I say?
Creek.
And you're right, they have their own farm in
Yeah, exactly. But then I was going to mention Blues Creek.
Blues Creek.
Which is in the North Market. If you follow their Facebook page or Twitter, they will, anytime a chef comes in from a restaurant, which is pretty often, they'll, tweet out, here's what this Elena bought from Elena's and that kind of thing. So it's kind of cool to see all of the restaurants that are using some of these local sourcers. Gallery, which is in the Hilton downtown, it's kind of cool because it's a hotel restaurant, and yet the entire back of their menu is 50 farms and sources that they use that are local. So I think a lot of places, especially newer restaurants, aren't putting it on the menu. Actually, just this morning I saw a conversation. The Crest Gastropub, that's the one that I forgot about, but in Clintonville. So they actually haven't opened yet, but they're opening next week, I believe. Somebody asked why they didn't include local sources on their menu, and, are wondering if they do source locally. And so they kind of said, yes, we do. We don't want to clutter our menu up with, every farm that we use for every single component of a dish. But of course, it's, people demand it these days. So it's a lot of people really do.
Certainly North Star's had a lot of success with it. Katharine?
Yeah. I would add Skillet, the Worthington Inn, Elena's, those are our people that are fierce about it. What's interesting, what Dine Originals is working on is we have a challenge in our area. We don't have the most integrated food system. So we have farmers that are growing these things, or raising lamb or beef, or, it's not just growing things, making cheeses, honey, that kind of thing. But if you're a chef, so I was fascinated to hear from Kevin Caskey, who owns Skillet. He said he spends as much time sourcing and ordering as he does cooking and running his restaurant. In his,
He must not sleep.
When he looks at his hours. Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you think about, you can either talk to one of the big truck people who are going to bring everything. They can turn it around. You place your order online, and in 8 hours you have a delivery. Or you can talk on the telephone, and sometimes online, to 12 different farmers and try to schedule, and it takes 2 or 3 days turnaround. So we're working on a couple of initiatives. Local Matters cares a lot about this and is looking at it at a systemic level. Edible Columbus Magazine is hosting a roundtable conversation in 10 days or so with our chefs and a group of farmers and artisan cheesemakers and what have you, to say, how can we help you help us? So that'll be hopefully
Terrific. A little more
easier.
coordination, make it
Yeah.
a little easier, and Chef Katsky can dedicate
And
even
it
more time to
fascinates
it.
me, one of the cities that has huge success with this is Athens, Ohio. So we don't have to look far to find a model and, take some of best practices. To have a food hub that's almost like North Market, but it's just for restaurants, and it's where you can go 4 days a week and pick up 10 different kinds of items would be terrific.
Terrific, yeah.
Yeah.
Bethia, anything to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the I'd sort of been making notes of restaurants. A lot of them have already been mentioned, but just a few other places. It's probably obvious, but Jenny's, they do a huge amount with local farmers, to the point of being able to get people to grow entire fields of things for them. When it's strawberry ice cream season, the quantities that they're using now, they can really help to support local farmers. Need is a restaurant. It kind of ties with what Shelley was talking about with Crest. Need has a map on the wall that shows all the different farmers and producers they work with, to try and avoid cluttering up the menu. Latitude 41, really, whenever I go to the North Market, I see one of the chefs from Latitude 41. They're in there all the time.
And they have herbs growing on the roof, too.
Yeah. And then kind of tying back to what we were talking about food trucks, and that food truck, they butcher their own meats. They work with a local farm for their proteins. And they, I think, are a great example, and it really shows you that even though they have a tiny kitchen, they can do great stuff with that. And then tying us back to downtown, I think a shout out to the Hills Market. They're not a restaurant, but they are really fantastic at supporting Ohio producers. And you'll find all sorts of local products in there that you can't find in other places.
You all know that it did open. It was a bit delayed. It's on Grant and
Gay, just
Gay,
north of
yep, a little
Gay.
north of Gay on Grant. Limited parking, but you can usually find a parking meter out front. Particularly those of us who live on the east side really appreciate the fact we can stop there on the way home and pick something up. One of the things we didn't mention, which has been a food trend in Columbus for probably 25 years, is, and it's certainly some of our guests today have moved it up a notch, and that's pizza. Let's talk a little bit about your favorite pizza places.
Well, I mean,
You gotta say Harvest.
I always say Harvest is my favorite. I think it's the best pizza in the city. I know, they just really nailed the formula of a great pizza, which is a lot harder than it seems like it would be. So it's everything from the crust to the, exact amount of sauce and the cheese and the right toppings, and they use really creative toppings and things like that. So definitely. But there are a lot of other, every day it seems like, especially in Worthington for some reason, there are new artisan pizza places opening up. So Natalie's also serves just fantastic. There's coal-fired instead of wood-fired pizza.
The only coal-fired pizza in Columbus, I think.
Right, which is something that's popular in New York. And then, in Worthington, there's Pies and Pints. I think Dewey's is opening another pizza location up there. Downtown Element Pizza has some interesting combinations. I know I'm forgetting people, but people, I mean, there just seems to be a, non-ending appetite for pizza, and everyone loves it, and, it seems to be a home run for a lot of restaurants, so.
We have Figlio in Grandview, which is terrific. And I'm a German villager, so walking to Harvest it's transformed that just being able to go out in your neighborhood for us. Not necessarily a G. Michael's get dressed to be seen, but to be able to go has been.
And Curio next door is fun too. Take your pizza over there.
Yeah, just I'll give shout out to a couple of different places. Bono Pizza in Grandview is a Fifth by Northwest. It's the wood-fired pizza oven. It's a really quirky place. If you haven't been, it's in the side of a convenience store, and they make really good pizza too. My newest pizza discovery is Borgata Pizza, which is up just off 161. It's kind of a mom and pop place. They have kind of a bar you can sit at, and you can watch them tossing these huge pizza doughs up in the air. They make their own pasta as well, so it's a nice place if you're up in the north part of town. And then somewhere I think that gets overlooked for their pizza is Rigsby's. They use their sourdough bread for the crust, and you can sit at the bar, and I think it's nice to sit in there, especially if you get in there for happy hour.
It's a gastropub. I mean, the front part of Rigsby's is absolutely the best bar of food in town.
Yeah, terrific.
And actually, that's, I would say, another trend in Columbus that's very popular is grilled cheese sandwiches.
Oh, yeah.
And
Their grilled cheese happy hour.
Yeah, Rigsby's just started doing a grilled cheese happy hour on Wednesdays. $5 for a grilled cheese sandwich. But I think grilled cheese sandwiches, you see them now with macaroni and cheese in the sandwich, all kinds of different variations.
Carbs on carbs.
Yeah, that's something that Columbus loves is grilled cheese.
True enough. We're about 4 minutes away from questions, and there's so much more to talk about. One thing we all want to get a shout out for is our North Market. Let's talk about some of the wonderful vendors down there. My wife's on the board, so I won't promote it too much, but Shelley?
Oh, wow. Well, speaking of cheese, Curds and Whey is a fantastic resource to find a lot of interesting cheeses all the time. And I mentioned Blues Creek, but that's one of my favorite vendors in the market. They have a lot of great cuts of meat, different kinds of things that you wouldn't be able to get at the grocery store for pretty good prices too.
And seafood, I think to be in landlocked Columbus, Ohio, there's not a lot of fresh seafood that I want to trust as fresh seafood, but they get in a truck and go to New York 2-3 times a week.
Right,
so
at Bob's.
yeah. Think of a name.
Two of my favorite vendors in the North Market, one is Brazel Pretzels. They are doing some really interesting flavor combinations. Their best seller is their regular Bavarian pretzel, but all kinds of smoked Gouda and onion and spicy pretzels and seasonal variations. And then the other one is North Market Spices. And speaking of people that are doing innovative things, they have all the regular spices that you would expect to find, but then they have so many different rubs and blends and mixes, and I saw last week ketchup powder spice and smoked peppercorns with onion and thyme and all kinds of amazing stuff if you're cooking at home.
That was my Christmas trick this year. I did baskets and said, "You spice up my life." To 15 people. So use that. It was great. They were
Thanks
fun
to the Walters
and
family.
really helpful.
And they're working with a lot of, they're working with some of the food trucks, they're working with a lot of local chefs, so I think they're having a really big impact on kind of the Columbus food scene, not just kind of from what they sell, but I was just going to say, I think the North Market really is kind of a victim of its own success at the moment, because, the vendors there are doing so well that there just isn't that much turnover, and one of the things the North Market tries to do is help new businesses to get established.
Incubate.
But there aren't enough vacancies. So if anybody has any great ideas for how the North Market can expand, take over Park Street, that is that's my dream, is that the North Market will just expand and the whole of Park Street will be small artisan food shops and producers.
You could submit your resume. I understand the directorship is open.
I think they're almost done with the search.
Are they?
They had 300 applicants to become director of the North Market, which is terrific. And I'm sure they're going to find someone really good. Okay, we got a minute left to talk about your favorite restaurants, because everybody wants to know that so they can write it down. I know it's tough for you folks that are in the media to do that, but tell us what recently has really rung your bell. Yeah.
I think still my favorite restaurant, I named it the best new restaurant of last year for Columbus Monthly, is Veritas Tavern. It's in Delaware. It's a drive. And the unfortunate part is they have really great drinks, so you have to get a designated driver because you have to drive all the way back from Delaware. But the food, when we were speaking of innovation, they're doing things that no one else is doing in Columbus, which is very exciting. And every time you go, the menu has changed and is different, and they're always just doing surprising combinations of food and really interesting presentation of ingredients. So it's definitely worth checking out.
And I would say similar things about the Worthington Inn. Chef Tom does amazing work, and it's kind of incongruous to me to in that setting and in Worthington, but it's one of the more innovative restaurants. And Skillet for brunch is amazing. That is a true field-to-table experience. And then I'm excited about Kitty's Cakes, which has just opened in German Village, a new bakery that is doing kind of old school, very carefully sourced ingredients, cakes and breakfast.
So a little competition to Pistachio Vera, which has been doing a great job.
Right, and maybe filling a hole that was left by Bakery Gingham.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Skillet. I think Skillet's dinner really gets overlooked. Everybody knows about the
Because they don't have a liquor license, it gets overlooked.
but people know about the brunch, and I think they don't always know about the dinners they do.
No.
He is really creative. He is
Yeah.
tremendously creative.
Yeah.
My two favorite places for kind of more special occasion, Kahachi. If you're not familiar with it, it's a Japanese restaurant up in the Sawmill 161 area.
Anthony Bourdain actually liked that one.
It's I think Chef Mike Kimura is amazingly talented, and his attention to detail and the quality of ingredients is just amazing. My other favorite place, and I'm in mourning at the moment because they're closing at the end of this week, is Fresh Street Yakitori, which is in the Double Happiness, kind of being a pop-up in Double Happiness. If you haven't been there, you should go, but you have to go like Saturday night is their last night. So.
Wow.
And then I have to find a replacement.
Well, if any of you have any questions, please approach the microphones. Give us your name, and we don't want long editorial comments, but we're happy to have you plug something if you like to. Go ahead.
I will break the ice. I'm Jane Scott, and thank you very, very much for being here. I just had lunch and I'm starved. Not because the lunch wasn't good, but because you've whetted all of our appetites. I am always very, very disappointed that restaurants that brag about local sourcing overlook Ohio wines. My editorial comment is Ohio wines are overlooked in the wine world the same way that Columbus is overlooked in the food world. My question to you all, what do we have to do to raise the awareness of the restaurant industry in this city, that there are 175 wineries in Ohio and that some of them are producing worldwide category wines, but yet we still, kind of like Rodney Dangerfield, can't get any respect? What would be your suggestion?
We're integrating them into the Taste of Dine Originals this year. I think they need their distributors doing a better job of working with the restaurants. They're going to order what the salesperson presents to them. So it took us some work to get to those Ohio wineries, and we were already working with their distributors, but they weren't offering them up as an option.
they have an annual festival at North Market. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't. You buy tickets and you go around and sample. There's some really good stuff there. Shelley, anything to add about wines?
No, I mean honestly the place that I see Ohio wines the most is that event's only once a year, but the North Market Festival. There are some restaurants that do serve them. I mean, I guess I would say ask for them too. Ask why the restaurants aren't serving them or suggest that they do. But yeah, I mean, there are great reds and whites and sparklings and everything made here. So.
We didn't get into spirits. There's a lot of that going on with Middle West and the Brothers Drake and Rock Mill and
Watershed.
And what's the one in Athens? It's
Dancing Tree.
Dancing Tree. That's another topic. We'll do a whole afternoon on alcohol.
I'm coming back for that one. Hi, I'm Councilmember Michelle Mills, and I have a question. Since I am responsible in leading the legislation for food trucks, I wanted to know from your expertise and in your travels, what city would you say that you've noticed to be very friendly to food trucks and this growing industry and this progressive nature of how we access food that we could learn from? If you have any ideas of cities that you think we might want to take a look at and learn as we continue to shape legislation to be supportive to the food truck industry.
Washington, D.C. is maybe a surprising one, but they seem to have managed, what?
No, there's huge uproar in DC at the
Right.
moment with the new legislation.
But there's legislation, and okay. I think they've done well with it. They've had a very robust discussion, and they've come up with legislation to address what had become a very tense situation.
One of my friends was making a documentary all about the food trucks in Washington, D.C. and emailed me this week because the Columbus Food Truck Association has just publicly announced that they are standing in support of the Washington, D.C. food trucks who feel like they've been
Marginalized.
Yeah. I would say Austin is one of the cities that seems to be very friendly to food trucks. I don't know much about their kind of legislation. But I think up to now, Columbus has been really great in its policies towards food trucks. I mean, a lot better than other cities. Columbus has had taco trucks for the last 12 years. And when you look at the rest of the Midwest, people associate taco trucks with, California and Texas, and Columbus is this sort of anomaly in the Midwest that we have about 40 taco trucks who have been very happily doing business here and serving their community. So I know that some of the food trucks that move around a lot are looking for changes and they want to be able to park on city streets. But I think that Columbus has been doing a lot right, and I would hope that it won't become more restrictive than it is now.
Shelley, anything to add?
I don't really have anything to add.
Okay. Los Gachos is a great place, by the way.
Step up. I'm P. Susan. Who remembers the Dell and Parsons speaking of small plates? Remember anybody? Before their time, right? A quick ad for Taste of Dine Originals. I was there last year. Boy, if you ever want to know what's going on in the city for a small price, it is the best. My question is, do you think since we're just the best food place in the nation, why during arts festivals do we have to have carnival food? Mistake. That was me.
Carnival food.
I know Dine Originals did try to work with Arts Festival, but it seems to me if people are coming into Columbus, wouldn't it be just Jim Dandy if they had something other than, the sausages that roll around with green peppers? Not to put anybody on the spot, but I'm just curious about that. Maybe now with food trucks.
Is it a fee to participate issue?
It's a fee to participate, and for us, for Dine Originals members, so I probably should have said this an hour ago. Dine Originals is a membership organization of locally owned restaurants, and unless you're set up to do off-site catering or off-site event stuff, it is a bear. So you have a small business that you are jamming, 65 hours a week to keep things running, and then to say we're going to schedule extra people and we're going to get coolers and we're going to get ice and we're going to schlep and we're going to pay a fortune to the city of Columbus for a daily food permit. They have doubled in the last 12 months. It just becomes more than a small business can handle.
Sure.
I completely agree with you, and not just with the Arts Festival, but the one that always astounds me every year is Confest. And with everything that Confest stands for about being local and community, that they have all the, the turkey drumsticks and all the carnival food, just makes me crazy. But the big issue, and we have so much great local food that could be there, the biggest issue is cost. And I get emails from people that are organizing festivals and they want food trucks there, but the cost is usually hundreds of dollars.
Thousands.
And for some of them, way more than that. And they just can't pay that, they can't take that risk. Those sort of events are so weather dependent. And the real reason is that the people organizing big festivals like that are trying to cover a lot of their costs with the food vendors and vendor
So they're just locking horns, and we have to suffer. It would be great to see food trucks at ComFest. It'd be great to see food trucks at the Arts Festival.
Yeah.
And I know Dine Originals and
We
some
tried.
of the great restaurants there tried like sergeants to get, was it last year when everything blew away, or was that 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years
Woo!
ago.
Yeah. By the way, Catherine, can I mention that the Dine Originals, a Taste of Dine Originals, which is a great, I think we mentioned a little bit earlier, a great event is on May 9th. It's at Capital University. It's a much bigger facility, so those of you who attended in the past and felt squeezed in at some of the smaller locations won't have that problem. Everybody's there. You get almost all the food, certainly, and wine you can consume. The tickets are normally, I think, $100, but today, because you're at the Metropolitan Club, and this is one of the benefits
And
of
because
membership.
the honorary chair of Taste this year, Bonnie Millenthal, is with us.
And Bonnie agreed to help underwrite.
There you go.
$75 today?
$75.
So $75, you save $25.
So it's our 49 restaurants. Every one of them are set up. If you think of 12 or 14 you want to do tasting, you're not going to taste 50 things. You can go from the Refectory to G. Michael's to Barcelona to Skillet, all of these places. And then we have 35 vineyards, and then we have Watershed, and then. So
Yeah, it's a great event.
And it's to benefit the Buckeye Ranch.
Yeah.
So good night.
Please.
Hello, my name is Mary Urena, and we've talked a lot about local sourcing, but we haven't talked about local talent. So my question is about local talent. With Central Ohio Technical College having a 2-year culinary arts program, and now Ohio State University having a Bachelor of Science program in culinary sciences, what are the local restaurants, local food scene doing to foster and retain that local talent?
Dine Originals is funding a scholarship at Columbus State. Somebody comes in as a first-year student, and we will see them through the 3-year program. So we're really pleased with that. And then I would say the majority of our member restaurants work with the internship programs of all of the ones you just mentioned. So it's getting people into the kitchens and having a job for them when they graduate that keeps them in Columbus. So I think it's working.
Yeah, and for a long time, I think Cameron Mitchell stole every graduate they had.
Yep.
So hopefully he keeps it up. Shelley, anything to add?
Well, yeah, Rigsby's is another restaurant where it seems like a lot of talent comes through and moves on to other restaurants. This is something that we kind of wanted to talk about, I think, a little bit earlier in terms of, what can we do to raise awareness of Columbus's food scene on a bigger level. I think definitely has to do with the talent. And, chefs these days are celebrities just as, actors and actresses and things like that. So, I think it really is about having people, really embrace that role as, a face to the restaurant and, that kind of thing that will eventually help get a little bit more attention on the city as a whole. I guess.
Yeah, we
And
have-
I find that skill set is not necessarily found in one person.
Right, yeah.
That some of the finest chefs we have are not hams.
Right, well,
And the ones that get a lot of attention are not cooking
Right.
in the kitchen as
Right.
often as they were when they started. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think that it's something, if you look at Cleveland, they have a couple of celebrity chefs there. It gets them a little bit more attention. So, it might be just something that we should focus on or help our restaurants out with.
It'd be great to have somebody like Chef Katsky, to grab onto a
Right.
Chef Simon kind of role
Right.
and get out there because they can compete. Chef Baudin, Chef Hubert is a great chef, although he doesn't cook as much as he should. Next question.
Hi, my name's Dan Hedman. Great job today so far. This is a question for all of you. Obviously, the food scene here in Columbus is great, but my question is, where do you think, if you had to pinpoint one cuisine, is there the biggest room for growth? In other words, if you had to invest your own money in a restaurant, what would it be?
An investor here.
Something that I really would like to see, and it's probably it's not really a cuisine yet, but I guess I don't know why, is Midwestern, and it seems like there
Turkey
are exactly, but there are a lot of restaurants that do ethnic, and are bringing in all these flavors to Columbus and serving them. I'd like to see people use, we talk about the local ingredients, but really celebrate that, and like maybe we don't use as much seafood because we're not right on the ocean, and I think that could be something that sets restaurants apart, because we're really defining that as something that we own, which no one's really doing yet.
I love Tip Top defines itself as Ohio comfort food. And
I think the comfort food movement is about as close as we've come to it.
Right. I think there's room for growth in vegetarian. We don't have true vegetarian. And what I observe is our culture, if you are not a vegetarian, we treat vegetables as a side dish. It's hard for us to imagine that even if I'm not a vegetarian, that on a Thursday night I might really enjoy a vegetable-based dinner. So I think there's real room there.
Yeah, a number of topics we couldn't address today because we ran out of time was, vegetarian restaurants certainly was one of them. Coffee shops and local coffee shops. We talked a little bit about talking about the beverage industry. Lots more. We'll do this again sometime soon, I hope. I'll turn it back to Mike because I'm not supposed to close.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you to our panel. I hope you enjoyed today's forum. You can see it again. I was taking notes. I'm sure other people were taking notes. If you missed all the restaurants that were recommended, it'll soon be on YouTube and at the CMC website. So go back and compare your notes and for all these great restaurant recommendations. Welcome to continue the conversation. Trade restaurant ideas in the lobby. Coffee and cookies are out there as well. And make your reservation for next week's forum, which is What's on Your Mind. So thanks to our speakers, Katharine Moore, Bethia, Woolf, and Shelley Mann, and moderator Rich Terapak.
Thank you. I'm going to put my other hat on for just a second and thank the Athletic Club and Rob Schneider for the wonderful job they do of hosting us. We're really grateful for that. Thank you.